Hello, and welcome to Andrew's Clay Creations and More. In this video, I'm collaborating with Clay Excellent. Clay Excellent is a fairly new YouTube channel that makes incredible sculptures. I love her Peppy monster that she used a real Pepsi can as the base, and I thought it would be fun if we each used a canned drink for our creation in our collaboration. Collaboration! When you're done watching this video, be sure to head over to her channel and see what she creates with a Red's Wicked Apple can. But first, let's see what I can make with this Dr Pepper Creme Soda Jurassic World Dominion can. Alright, so I prepped my can. I did that off camera. I just poked it and drained it out, but I was afraid it was going to be kind of messy. And it was, and I didn't really want to do that in my art room, and I wasn't really set up to film at the kitchen sink. So there you go, it's done. One thing I should say is, if you're going to do any projects with cans like this could be very sharp, these edges, so be very careful. I'm not going to sculpt the whole dinosaur, and I need to sculpt it small enough to put it in here. I can rip this open a little bit more and maybe even bend it back if I need to, but I don't want to overdo it because I like how this is. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I might sculpt my dinosaur in a few parts and then put the parts in when they're baked and make it look like they go together. I do have some reference photos of Ghost, which is what this can's from. I don't know if that's supposed to be Ghost on there or not. One thing I noticed about Ghost is she's supposed to be a pale white, and I thought that would be a good contrast with the can, even putting her inside. But the toys and like merchandise for her, she's really white. In the movie, she's more of a kind of an off-white or dingy white, in my opinion. I'm going to build up the head and maybe like the neck with some foil. I have this mixture. It's kind of it's a white, it's got some speckles in it, maybe a hair. We don't want that. Yuck. And because of how Ghost's skin looks, she's not like a pure white. I'm not worried about it being flawlessly white. I thought with Ghost, I don't have to worry about it too much since she's not a solid white. So I'm just going to soften this up and get my shape of my head. And then I also want to put some kind of liquid in it. Not real liquid, but like a UV resin to make it look like liquid. I think this is a manageable size for my head, and then I'll bring it down a little bit for a neck area just to have an area where I put the arms, because I do want to sculpt both her arms. I'm just getting this softened up. I've got a lot of clay projects. I'm really excited to work on some new stuff this year. Acting like this year is just starting, but it kind of feels like it. I know at the time of filming this, it's in middle of May 2023, so that looks pretty good. And I think if I do it this way, I can add the details and leave that kind of flat. Maybe hot glue it in the back. Gonna try to get the basic look of our little buddy Ghost. It looks like a little snake head at this point. I'm just using my reference photo, and I picked one of the more realistic toys. I did get some pictures of some like Funko Pops and stuff to have more reference, but I wanted to give her kind of a realistic look. Not overly, since she's just a little clay sculpture. And I mean, you can do clay sculpture with a realistic look, but I like to do a little closer to claymation style. A little bit cartoony. It does make it a lot easier to work on when you're just doing one side, because I don't have to worry about ruining what I did over here as I'm doing this side. Because sometimes what you have to do when you sculpting all 3 dimensions, it's more like 2.5 dimensions. Give her a little bit more definition in her jaw here. Do you ever get more, I don't want to say attached, but have more of a connection to, it's kind of like attached, to a movie character when you read more about them online? Like when I got this can, and then I decided, well, I want to do a dinosaur coming out of it. And I didn't know what dinosaur I was going to do. I thought, well, it'd be nice to do one of the raptors from the movie, have it kind of match up. So I started doing some research on it, meaning, Google, and they talked about the different ones, and they talked about Ghost, and then I found her story more interesting, and I think she shows up in some of the games, or a game, so it's just like kind of builds that character up more. And I mean, I would definitely say she's a character in, it's not just a random dinosaur, because they gave her more story and she had more to do in the movie, which I didn't even, like when I've seen the movie twice. I really like it. I know it's not everybody's favorite Jurassic movie, but I do really like it. And I like the stuff with her, but I didn't even know who she was when I watched the movie even the second time. So now I feel like I need to go back and watch it again. But I did go in and watch her clips on YouTube when I was doing the research for this project. I'm gonna add Ghost a little nostril here. Not for sure if you'll be able to see it, but I want to have the details kind of, wrapped just a little around so when you turn the can, you can see anything that might show. Reminds me of those animal banks where you press, like you put the coin on there and it comes up out of the box. Like there's a cat, and my wife got me a panda one, and I've seen a Godzilla one, which surprisingly I don't have. But that creature comes out, animal, whatever, and snags the coin, but it's a very incomplete version of the creature. It's like only what the audience would see. So it's kind of funny, because you don't need to have the whole sculpt. And I think a lot of decorations are like that, especially Halloween ones where they have like jump scares and stuff where something pops out. I mean, they don't need to have the whole thing. And it's probably like that with movies. Well, I know it is. And you look at the original 1933 King Kong, they had a couple different puppets or, stop motion puppets for him, but then they had like a giant hand, and that's all they had, and then they had a giant head. So he's a very incomplete sculpture, but it worked for the movie because that stuff isn't seen, it's off camera. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this. It's a lot of it's going to be, not seen by the viewer, so there's no reason to sculpt it. But again, I still feel like I'm being lazy. I know, I'm weird. It is what it is. Gonna add some little wrinkly doos. Again, just adding some details that will carry around. Now I want to go in, I'm going to take a little ball tool, just add some texture to her skin, give it kind of that scaly look, just adding some details of how her skin is. This is about where I want the arms to be. So I might put a little indentation there. And the other one's going to come from this side. So I think in the can, this one will be reaching forward, busting out. This other one will come up and maybe claw out the side of it. So the last thing I want to do on the head is make some little stripes. And I'm going to go ahead and make those just a gray. So I'm just taking my white mixture mixed with some black. And I'm not going to try to match, again, my source material perfectly, because I noticed every company that's made a figure of Ghost has done her, made her different. So I'm going to continue the tradition and do my own version, as long as I get what I feel is the essence of Ghost. Sounds weird. Alright, so I've got my gray. I have my reference photos to give me a general idea. So I have these smaller pieces you can pick up with your needle tool. That's going to be too big still. To make it look like it belongs, I'm going to texture it the same way I textured the white. So I've got my two arms. They are kind of the same. So I'm going to get them covered with the clay. So I'm just going to basically shape out my arms and my center finger. And that should be good for our little raptor. You got to say it like that. Raptor. Alright, there's my little raptor arms. So I just want to make 6 little claws. And I'll try to delicately put those on and delicately put them in the can when he's done. And hopefully I don't have any issues with them. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish these up. I'm going to bake everything according to package instructions. When it's all cooled down, we'll try to get them put into our can. So I've got my dinosaur parts. I did go ahead and make Ghost a tail. I'm not for sure if I'll use it yet. But I thought, hey, I've got the extra clay, I might as well do that. And I've got some foam I'm going to put in the bottom here to kind of rest stuff on. I'm using a glue gun to make my liquid. So let's start with chopping this foam down a little bit so it's more manageable. And this is just stuff that came in a package left over from something. I always kind of just save stuff because that's what I do. I'm like, ooh, I could use this for something. Sometimes I use that stuff. Sometimes it just sits there for years. But I thought this would be a good way to fill up the can. I should probably figure out where I want her tail to be if I want it coming out. Let's go with right back here for the tail. So basically what I'm doing is cutting little triangles, or part of triangles, so then I can poke the tail through on the other side. And that way it'll look like it's bursting out, because if I push it through that way, it's not going to burst out. See, I think that works. Take some of the glue, get this to hold into place. So I'm going to cut this up into a bunch of pieces with my craft knife. All right, so I'm going to get some glue on that. See if I can wedge this in there. Get some other little chunks I can kind of just fill in the gaps. Gonna be honest, I've never done anything like this. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying what I think will work. And if it doesn't, we'll make some adjustments. You gotta do on a lot of projects, especially if it's something you haven't done before. But now I'm just filling in some space with the glue gun. So I think the next thing I need to do is figure out where the placement of Ghost's right arm is. And I've lost a fingernail. That's not good. Come on, Ghost. Where's your fingernail? Sounds like it's in there. There it is. So I'm going to set this aside and glue it on at the end. That's working. I'm just going to drip that in there to hold the arm in place. Open this up a little bit more to give a little more visibility. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down in to hold the head in place. Let this set in there. And get some glue in there to fill in our gap. There. I think I like that. I think that'll end up working. It's not going to be exactly how I envisioned it originally, but that's okay. Sometimes you gotta pivot. Kind of using up all my wife's glue sticks. A little glue on here just to help it adhere. So that's what glue does. Let's fill this with our glue. Gotta glue my dinosaur. So once I get my glue in here, I'm going to use some alcohol inks to kind of color it some. Never done that before. Never used alcohol inks. Again, another craft supply I'm borrowing from my wife. We're just going to do it and see what happens. Yeah, that's really tricky, but I'm pretty happy how it's turning out. I didn't know if I could do it. Add some little dribbles out this opening. Just finishing up, filling up as much as I can with the glue from the glue gun. So I have a nice, kind of level area of fluid that would be in it. Liquid. Fluid sounds more clinical. So I've got the hot glue done for my bubbling over liquid. So I've got some T-Rex alcohol inks here. Got this Canyon Rust. I think I'm going to try that for the color of my liquid. Kind of gives it that Dr Pepper look, I hope, but it doesn't have to be perfect. At least that's what I keep trying to tell myself. So I don't know how this is going to look. Kind of like it. That's a start to kind of like it. I think I will go ahead and cover as much as I can with this Canyon Rust colored alcohol ink. Once that's dry, I will go on to the next step. All right, so I'm jumping back in here because I'm doing this and it looks kind of streaky, like how you get brush strokes, but this time with, a Q-tip. And I thought, well, I'm going to try something different. What if I take just a drop of it, gonna let it just go. And I do like that look better. I won't be able to do that along the side, but maybe this will work and I can do the brush or the Q-tip along where it's dripping down. Like how that's filling in there. It doesn't give the brush stroke look and it makes it more inconsistent. And I really think that looks good for what I want to do with this piece. And I'm trying to get it so it's not on Ghost, but I think it's fine if some of it does get on there and bleeds through because, obviously she's been in this liquid, so she probably would have some of it on her. So I got the claws glued back on. I just used some super glue gel to put those on. And I decided, I really like the coloring here for the liquid, but I thought it would be nice to add it to the sculpture. So I did a little bit of a test on the tail because I had some already dripped on there. And I thought that kind of makes sense that it would discolorize Ghost and then I can go in and wipe it off and let it like it's dripping off of it. I'll show you what I did. So I just put a few drops in my paint tray. Then I get it on a Q-tip here and then I discolor my sculpt. Trying to get it in the crevices a bit like it would. And I could drip it on there too. It'd just be harder to clean off, but dripping on there might get in there a little bit better. Well, it probably would. It's probably not a might. It would get in there better. Let's try drop. And then I've got some rubbing alcohol. Get my Q-tip wet. I'm gonna go in and clean it off. And that looks like it, to me it gives the look that it was covered and it's dripped off of it instead of it's not discolored at all. I just felt like it should have a little bit of discolorization. After putting everything in, Ghost looked too clean for being inside this can that had this dark liquid in it. I didn't even know originally if that's what I was going to do for the color, but it worked. I really like it. I don't know if it looks like pop, but I'm happy with how it looks. So I'm just going to dirty her up and clean her up. And I'll do that on the head and the other arm inside. So I wanted to add some UV resin over my hot glue and ink. And I basically wanted to just kind of make it a little more shiny and give it a protective coat or protective layer. I'm not for sure how this is going to work, so I'm going to kind of start here on the back or side. Just get this all covered. I did a few test things with UV resin before I did this because I thought I was going to try the UV resin for the liquid. And I have some resin dye, and it just didn't set up as well with the dye in it. So I thought this way, putting the alcohol ink over the glue to color it that way, and then put the resin over the glue, and the resin should set up okay. Because I think, with the UV resin, it has to set up with UV light, and if it's got dye in there, the light's not getting through. I do have this UV light I got in a craft kit, but I know it doesn't seem as strong as maybe it needs to be for the resin to set up, and it doesn't set up all the way. I went to Walmart and found this beauty, sensational gel LED lamp. And it doesn't say UV, but I'm assuming that's the same thing. The reason why I'm assuming it is because when I looked in the Walmart app to see if they had any UV lights, this is what came up. So it's got to be the same, right? No, it doesn't. But we're going to try it. Said it was powerful, and it was kind of amusing when I went there because I'm in the nail aisle, and there's a lady working in the aisle, Walmart employee, not like somebody stocking it or whatever. And I asked her about the UV light, and then she's like, "What are you going to use it for?" I think she was just trying to be helpful, but it seemed so accusing. But when I explained what I was going to be using it for, she did say, "Well, it might not work for that. These aren't really strong, but you could get one from Sally's. They have, more industrial strength ones." Not even for sure how to, you have to have stuff close to it. Oh, that's got sensors on it. That's weird. So how am I going to pull this off? Because it doesn't seem to activate. Come on. Oh, maybe it doesn't. No, because it'll turn on that way. There. It's these things, and that recognize your hand going in. I don't read the instructions, so I need to go, so I have to put my finger there to get this to work. I know I have a bigger project I'm working on that'll be coming up on my channel soon, and I actually put it in the window because the little light wouldn't ever set it up all the way. It set it up enough so it wouldn't move, but it was still tacky. So the light works, it just doesn't quite work as well as I was hoping. This seems brighter. It's got to count for something. And if this light doesn't work, I will set it in the sunlight tomorrow. Didn't really notice that much difference visually on here. And I know, like I said, it's going to protect that layer, but the problem is I can't even tell exactly where I put it. I can see where I kind of touched it and, it's tacky. I need to smooth that out a little bit, but I'm not really thinking that's really helping me. So I am going to put some UV resin over different parts of Ghost to give her a little more, make it a little more drippy, and then move on to doing some glow-in-the-dark paint. All right, so we'll try to let it set up a little bit with this, and then I'll switch over and let it set up a little bit with the UV light. And I'll do the same thing with the tail and the parts inside the can. So we've got Ghost covered with the UV resin, and I just want to add a bit of glow-in-the-dark paint. Make her pop when I shine the UV light on her. It's going to be a little bit tricky. I'm putting this over the UV resin, and then I might put just a little bit more UV resin over it. You can't really even see it, so this should be fun. Or I can't see it. Maybe it shows up better on camera. Probably not. Kind of dark in there. If I shine, you kind of see it glow there. So I might need to go a little thicker. So I'm just going to go in, add a bunch of little details, go over that with some more UV resin, and then we'll look at the finished Ghost coming out of a Dr Pepper Creme Soda can for Jurassic World Dominion. And here is the finished Ghost busting out of a Dr Pepper Creme Soda can. This definitely has a reptilian snake-like look. I'm really happy how it turned out. It definitely wasn't what I originally was going for, but I like all the extra added layers. I did add some additional glow-in-the-dark paint because it wasn't really charging up with the UV light as I was hoping, and it didn't give me the effect I wanted because I don't think it was on there thick enough. Give you a good look at everything here first, and then we'll pop her under the UV light and see how that looks. I really wanted to keep the artwork intact of the can because I think it's really cool looking. Plus, now I'm like positive that's Ghost on there. I would definitely love to do more things similar to this. I've seen a lot of artists do NES cartridges and have characters coming out of them. There's just all kinds of things you can do. So let's go ahead and get the lights off and we'll charge her up with the UV light. So I just want to shine the UV light in there for a little bit to charge up that glow-in-the-dark paint. Pull that away and see how it looks. All right, there's Ghost all charged up with the UV light. I'm really happy how this turned out. It gives her this almost like radioactive look, and I think that's really cool. It's not something I'm going to sit there and charge up a lot, but it's fun to do it and have some footage of it. I had a lot of fun making this project, and it was great to work with Clay Excellent and do this collaboration video, and I'm really hoping we can do another one in the future. It was fun to see what I could come up with, and it was really fun to see what she came up with hers. And speaking of that, if you haven't already done so, be sure to head over to her channel, check out her part of the collaboration, and also be sure to subscribe because I know she's got a lot of other projects coming up and you don't want to miss them. All right, well, thank you so much for watching, and remember, never stop creating. Bye. And I thought it would be fun if we each used a canned drink for our creation in our collaboration. Creation collaboration.
Our creation in our collaboration. Creation collaboration.
Creation in our collaboration. Creation collaboration.